If you grew up with the ancient Indian epics, you probably know the story of Ahalya, a beautiful woman married to the ascetic sage Gautama who gets deceived by Indra, the king of heaven, disguised as her husband. Gautama catches them, flies into a rage, and curses Ahalya, turning her into a stone. Indra gets vilified, Ahalya gets traumatized, and Gautama is left emotionally bankrupt. On the surface, it reads like a messy, tragic soap opera. But what if I told you that this story isn't a literal historical event, nor is it just a moral cautionary tale? What if we stripped away the centuries of superficial retellings and analyzed it through two rigid objective lenses: atmospheric soil science and modern psychology? When you connect these dots, the narrative completely transforms. It becomes an incredibly precise blueprint of an environmental crisis and a profound study of human vulnerability, resilience, and ultimate transformation. Let's break it down. Let's start with the literal Sanskrit etymology. In the Vedas, Hala means a plough, Halya means fertile, ploughed land. The prefix a indicates negation. So Ahalya literally means unploughed, barren land. Her husband Gautama represents the absolute scorching radiation of the sun. Now think about basic thermodynamics. What happens when the sun beats down on a barren landscape with no trees to shade it? The ground acts like an oven. The air directly above it gets superheated, expands, and shoots straight up into the upper atmosphere. Because all that air rushed upward, it leaves an empty vacuum near the ground, a low pressure zone. In physics, nature abhors a vacuum. That empty space acts like a massive vacuum cleaner, forcefully sucking in heavy, wet, cool air from outside tropical zones. This is Indra, the sudden chaotic flash flood or cloudburst. The atmosphere doesn't calmly rain over a desert. The intense heat of the barren land itself forces the sky into a violent explosion of water. Indra comes in disguise because a storm cloud literally masks itself in the desert's own thermal energy to force its way in. But what happens to a storm cloud after a sudden flash flood? A cloudburst is a chaotic, unsustainable expenditure of energy. The very instant the storm dumps its entire payload of water onto the dry earth, it completely empties its thermodynamic fuel. The dark, towering thunderheads lose their electrical charge and their luster, rapidly shredding into weak, grey, scattered wisps. The rain stops, but the crisis isn't over. The water cannot penetrate the hard, baked desert earth. It evaporates rapidly under the scorching sun, leaving behind dissolved mineral salts that crystallize on the surface. The mud bakes and hardens into an impenetrable crust. The land literally turns to stone. The curse of Gautama is simply the natural law of soil salinization following an unmanaged atmospheric collapse. Now let's flip the lens and map this thermodynamic process onto human relationship psychology. But to truly understand why this story feels so violently disruptive to our sensibilities, we have to look at the oldest layer of Vedic philosophy. Long before the word dharma became common, the Vedas spoke of a concept called Rita. Rita is the supreme cosmic order. It is the invisible, unbroken rhythm that dictates how the universe moves. It is the law that demands the sun must rise on time, the seasons must transition smoothly, and human beings must act with transparent truth. When Rita is intact, the universe sings. But when Rita is broken, nature and the human psyche collapses into chaos. In the traditional text, all three participants accidentally conspire to fracture the cosmic rhythm of Rita. Look closely at the past relationship dynamics between Ahalya and Gautama. Gautam was a deeply ascetic rishi, entirely consumed by his tapas. His intellect and spiritual ego, his focus was directly upward, toward the heavens. In doing so, he completely abandoned the emotional surface of his marriage, leaving Ahalya in a state of profound isolation. Gautam was physically present, but emotionally entirely absent. This absolute neglect created a psychological low-pressure zone within Ahalya, a vacuum of unfulfilled intimacy, validation, and human connection. It was this powerful silent void that left the ground parched and gave an outside force a doorway to rush in. That outside force is Indra. Now, because Indra uses manipulation, disguise, and triangulation to exploit this vacuum, it is incredibly easy to slap a modern label on him and call him a narcissist. But if you do that, your analysis stops at the surface. Indra is not a narcissist. Here is the definitive clinical distinction. A true narcissist is defined by a total absence of empathy, an absolute refusal to look inward, and a complete resistance to behavioral change. When caught, a narcissist will aggressively externalize blame, gaslight the victim, and double down on their entitlement. Indra does the exact opposite. If you look at his scriptural history, Indra's destructive actions are driven by a severe trauma and status insecurity wound, not an unredeemable personality disorder. According to the Rig Veda, Indra had a horrific childhood defined by maternal abandonment, starvation, and a hostile father figure who tried to suppress his power. So adult Indra operates out of intense survival anxiety. When he looks at Gautam and Ahalya, his hypervigilance mistreats their independent peace as a threat. But look at what happens after the crisis. Indra doesn't double down. He experiences a profound, crushing sense of guilt and shame. In the Puranas, he undergoes grueling open physical penances at the holy banks of the Godavari River and the sacred forests of Mahakalvan in Ujjain. He purifies his conscience, faces his ancient trauma, and transforms his physical disfigurements into 1,000 eyes of heightened, ultimate cosmic awareness. A narcissist is fundamentally incapable of genuine transformation. Indra's willingness to undergo painful self-correction proves his core identity is fluid. He is capable of massive spiritual evolution, even if the structural anxieties of his high-pressure throne occasionally echo back into his mind. This brings us to a revolutionary question. What happens after all three characters have done their inner work and evolved? To honor this beautiful cosmic realignment, I have scripted a full classical dance drama in rich poetic Bengali, heavily inspired by the psycho-spiritual and environmental style of Rabindranath Tagore. We call it Mahajagatik Chhondo, the cosmic rhythm, the crucible of the storm. The full video performance of this production is coming out very soon, but right now I want to share an exclusive trailer with you. Let's step into a universe where everyone owns up to their mistakes, where adversity becomes an opportunity, and where ultimate transformation is celebrated. Now that you have seen a glimpse of the trailer, let's dissect the magnificent internal fluidity of Indra's character right at the beginning of that clip. As he stands above the Tapovan, preparing to appear as a storm for the second time in their lives, his old insecurities bounce back. He looks down and remembers his traumatic childhood, the abandonment, the hunger, and the Koshta, the thorny bed of his throne. For a fleeting moment, a part of his mind whispers to use a disguise and maliciously crush their peace before they can grow powerful enough to overthrow him. But instead of succumbing to that old pattern, Indra undergoes a profound moment of conscious self-talk. He stops his own cycle and says, "No, I am purified by the fires of Mahakalvan. I will not be a slave to my past trauma. I will step into this storm not to destroy but to challenge, to test if their roots are as upgraded and resilient as my own soul now is."
I am the earth, unmoved by the raging storm.
In nature, This is exact moment an incoming storm shifts from a destructive, chaotic anomaly into a necessary seasonal test for a healthy forest. It checks the ecosystem's boundaries, and as you saw in the trailer, when he encounters their upgraded boundaries, there are no curses or insults, only a stunning mutual appreciation of how much all three of them have grown from their past adversities. The storm still comes, because in life, external challenges and the echoes of old insecurities will always bounce back. But the devastation only wins if we stay trapped in a vacuum of neglect or a loop of victimhood. What makes Indra's transformation so deeply inspirational is that while anyone can carry insecurities, almost no one can truly own up to their flaws, do the hard inner work and change. Most people blame it on others. In return, Indra honors Gautama and Ahalya because they refused to stay stuck as victims of past trauma. They used past adversity to reflect on their own shortcomings, fix their relationship dynamic, and grow. The ancient rishis didn't write these myths to tell us about ancient, unchanging gods. They wrote them to show us that no matter how deep the breakdown, the cosmic rhythm of Rita can always be restored through conscious self-work. You don't need a tragedy to define your story. If you maintain your balance and honor your growth, even the storms of life stop being your destruction and become the very stage that celebrates your ultimate awakening. The full dance drama video will be dropping on the channel very soon, so make sure to hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss it. Let me know your thoughts on this evolutionary breakdown in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next video.
সহস্র নয়নে জাগে নব চেতনা ঝড় হয়ে যেলো সেই তো করুণা সহস্র নয়নে জাগে নব চেতনা ঝড় হয়ে যেলো সেই তো করুণা দুর্বল কাহিনী নহে রচিব শক্তির গাথা রাখিব মনে